have. Again, we gather together for what hopefully will be the last informational meeting, given that we're expecting to finally be able to have a forum again in January. So I want to thank everyone for being here. As it is an informational meeting and we do not have a forum, we cannot take any votes, we cannot adopt an agenda. And so we will be running this more on an informal basis for informational purposes. We will go ahead and do a notice of meeting statement. Commissioner Venom, if you could please.
A news release announcing the date, time, and place of the December 12th, 2019 Informational Commission meeting was distributed December 10th, 2019 to appropriate media and other groups or individuals who have requested notification. The announcement and agenda were posted at the Department of Disabilities and Special Needs Central Administrative Office and on the website. The public has been notified that accommodations such as interpreters, mobility assistants, and other assistance will be provided to individuals with disabilities and special needs if requested in advance.
Thank you. We do have an agenda roughly laid out. Again, we're not formally adopting it, but that will be the general idea that we'll be following. So I'd like at this point in time to have our introduction of guests to throw it off. I'm starting up front, so we'll start in the back right. If I can start with.
Okay. Lois Eustace, Clark Eustace Wagner, CPAs.
Michelle Schaefer, Max Abilities.
Stacy Johnson, Rich Lux, DSM Board.
Tia Rogers, Jessica Services.
Judy Johnson, Human Service Providers.
Mike Moss, Calhoun County Disabilities Board.
Calhoun County DSM Board.
Excuse me, Bob Jones, Newberry Disabilities Board.
Florence Davis, member.
Crystal Wright, Jessica Services.
Sally Baker, Family Connection, South Carolina.
No, you still get to introduce yourself.
Gehrig, IT.
You're still here.
Okay.
Linda Lee, Witten Center Parents Club, my daughter's there. Kathleen Roberts, Witten Center Parents Club, had 2 children there, and they were served for over 30 years. They have passed, but still active.
Dean Red, Carlson County Board of Disabilities.
Jill DeMornwell, Carlton County Board.
Good morning, Mike Keith, Marion Dillon, DSN.
Thor Warren Backpack Center.
Joyce Kimmery, DDSM.
Martin Allewine, Department of Health and Human Services.
And Joyce Davis, Brain Injury Association, South Carolina.
Lindsay Dean, Community Action.
Ralph Courtney, Aiken County Board of Disabilities, and I'm here to peddle cookies for development.
First commercial. No, we're waiting for that.
Rob McBurney, DDSN.
Susan Beck.
Ben Warner, DDSN.
I'm Lori Manus with DDSN.
Chris Clark, EDSM.
All right, thank you very much. Public input, at this point in time, we do not have any submissions for public input. Just to make clear, there was one request form that was picked up that has not been submitted. Is there anyone here for public input? All right, seeing that, we'll now go to commissioners' update. Any updates from the commissioners?
No.
I don't want to steal the thunder from the back of the room, but I did have a chance yesterday to attend the groundbreaking for Miracle Park in Rock Hill. And hopefully we'll be getting some additional updates about that going forward. But that project actually has construction work going on. For those who aren't familiar with it, it is a community-based athletic field park that is designed to integrate our consumers with the community at large. Has some really groundbreaking features to it. So really looking forward to having that grow, and was very excited to be there. The actual shovels in the dirt moment that they've got started now. Okay. All right. Move on to our first item of old business. Can we get an update on case management?
Morning.
Morning.
I'm here to just give you a brief case management update. We are currently approaching the end of the second full quarter of waiver case management implementation, which was also the implementation of retrospective payment for waiver case management. During the first 2 quarters, we've continued to provide technical assistance with waiver case management and the invoicing process. as well as correction of errors. Providers are getting really savvy with their invoices. I don't get nearly as many calls as I did in the beginning. People are kind of understanding what they need to do with them and how they need to make corrections when they need to make corrections. We are in the process of analyzing providers. We still have some providers, you know, kind of ebbs and flows depending on the month, who are below that 60% prospective band payment mark, because as you will recall, we've been paying them for 60% prospectively. That has ended, right? So they got their December payment in November. So we've contacted all the providers who are below, and we're in the process of providing technical assistance and planning over the next few months as things change for them. For November of 2019, we did have a drop in revenue per person being served in all categories. The revenue, average revenue per person in October was $104.53. It's $89.46 in November. The decline could be attributed to less work days. We had only 18 business days in November. We had 23 in October. There were state holidays. You know, that's kind of what happens. The percentage of decrease was consistent with what we saw last November. It dropped 10% last November because of the holidays. It also dropped another 5 in December, so I'm expecting December's numbers to go down as well. But the percentage of decrease is consistent with what we saw last year.
Lori, can we also say that regardless of how many work days are in the month, the requirement is that there's a monthly contact.
Right.
So the requirement doesn't change. And I think that since we saw the same drop last year, you probably go back all the years, you would find that drop.
Mm-hmm.
We have to remember that just because a month has a holiday does not mean the work gets to stop. Unfortunately, but that's just the way it is.
As far as terminations, we've still only had 3 providers that have terminated their case management contacts. The last one was effective August 31st. We have received initial communication from the Charleston DSM board that they are going to let go of Haskell in an outlying county. So it's 15 people are effective. They're not terminating their case management contract, but they are no longer going to do head and spinal cord injury case management for people who live in Colleton County. So we're going to have to kind of get those. From the 3 that terminated, we successfully transitioned all of those to new providers. And while we don't have any new terminations, we have been in contact with people, and some providers intend to make decisions in the next few months. You know, kind of what we've been told by all providers is we want to wait through this holiday season. We know there's drops. We want to really see what we look like in January and February. And then, you know, we may have more case management providers terminate at that time. We do have a number of providers that are interested in expanding into other counties. It's just a little tricky because it really depends on the timing, you know, so we're really just trying to maintain communication and make sure that we know what providers are thinking about letting go of case management. A little bit of good news. As a result of the General Appropriations Act, that was that 2% increase for direct care staff, the Department of Health and Human Services has agreed to adjust the case management and early intervention rates effective January 1st, 2020 to allow for that 2% increase. So the EI rate is going to go up 22 cents per unit. You'll recall that a unit is 15 minutes, okay? So the EI rate is going to increase 22 cents a unit. The waiver case management with travel rate is going to increase by 22 cents a unit, and the waiver case management without travel is going to increase by 13 cents. Any questions?
And, I'm sorry, we're going to review the options in January so you can vote on them as to what to do with the monies that were allocated from July 1 to December 30th, 31st, sorry, there's 30 days, 31 days.
right, that weren't being met.
Yes, and we'll give you there's a couple of options to that.
Just make sure that when we get future numbers, that this is adjusted accordingly. In other words, I don't want this 2%, this increase to distort our comparison numbers when we're looking at the 60% value and the going.
Sure.
forward. We've talked about this before. Let's just make sure that we are adjusting accordingly, so that we're comparing apples to apples about what the numbers were before.
Sure, sure. You don't, when we look at revenue per consumer, what you're saying is you'd like for me to show you what it would look like without the increase and what it looks like with.
Right, so,
Got it.
yeah, so we're making sure that we're seeing.
I
apples to
understand,
apples.
I understand. Okay, any other questions? All right, thanks for letting me speak to y'all today.
Thank you. All right, Rob, if you can give us an update on the Market Square.
Well, the best update I can give you is right outside the door, down the hallway. We're pleased with the response. We have over 15 vendors out in the hallways and the conference room next door. Kind of start there and it just kind of run around. We may be at max capacity for this building now.
We have downstairs.
So we could go downstairs, but you know, we will branch out and look at that as for future years. This is the first time we've tried to do this, and I think everybody seems to be pleased so far, and we'll see what response we get from the community. I want to thank everyone who is here to help celebrate the creativity and hard work of our consumers. That is what the purpose of this was, to show what kind of good work our folks can do. You know, that it's not just, you know, jobs and are not just limited to working for somebody else. Sometimes you work for yourself. And start off, you know, sometimes people just want to start out and do an entrepreneurial job, and we have great examples of that up and down the hallway here. I want to also take the time to thank Deborah Gahagan, my assistant, who has done the lion's share of the work on this thing. This thing wouldn't have happened without her. And so she's at the sign-in desk out there. She insisted on being outside. Told her she could come inside, but she insisted on being out there. Do thank her when you go by for her efforts. Chris Manus and his staff for finding every available table in the building. That was great. I want to thank DSS, DHEC, DMH, Health and Human Services. They all put it out to their employees. I know that at least WOLO had it on their site, and I'm told that WIS might have said something well on the news. So we've got some publicity for it, and the last thing I want to do is thank the providers and, you know, everybody who's made it possible for our consumers to get here to Columbia. I know that is difficult. I know that it was a big ask for you to do that, to get everybody to Columbia, get all these products to Columbia, I hope that this is a successful day for you, and I hope that everybody gets something out of it. So, with that, I will just say Merry Christmas and enjoy your shopping.
All right, let's move on to the financial update from Chris.
All right. Thank you. So under tab 4, you should find the November financial update. We're continuing to work on the format of this. We haven't really deployed anything new on this particular report, but I am in contact with my budget department that puts this together, and we're discussing a variety of additional enhancements to this report to make it more useful. I did want to basically just make a couple points. Generally, what you want to do when you're reviewing this is look under the year-to-date actual expense and compare the percent expended to the targeted percent expended. We're 2% below our expenditure level based on our spending plan. which is favorable given the fact that we have numerous one-time or in advance payments that are distorting our expense level year to date, and I'll give you some examples of that. The revenue is the big piece that's missing out of this. We can keep our expenses in check all day long, but if we're not bringing in the money on the back end and billing, then, you know, we're basically saying we're in great shape when we may not be. So we're trying to tie down our revenue side. We are generating additional analyses and trying to come up with a basis to accrue revenue, which is pretty difficult when we're billing at the level we are in arrears and with the variety of issues we're dealing with. But ultimately, we want to have a revenue type report for you as well. Additionally, instead of not only in looking at the year-to-date total, but also if you look at the percent expended column, which is the far right column, you know, generally you want to identify anything that's running over budget. So anything over 41.67% is cause for additional analysis. In general, we pay providers half a month in advance, so that drives all these numbers up across the board. And so that's generally what causes that overage, but there are also additional things that I want to highlight. These are actually the same exact reasons as last month when I went over these. But I don't know if you remember those, so I'm going to go over them again. There are no additional things that hit in the month of November that cause a further distortion. Under the head and spinal cord injured community line, we're at 45.9%, main reason that is we have anything over these are over $200,000 amendments, and pieces of those that are $25,000 components, we pay them out in one lump sum instead of spreading it out over the year. And so that distorts our cash flow out the door, which is how we measure our expenses here at this time. Under the intellectual disabilities community residential line is at 45.76%. And the expense number is $424,000 of FEMA generators, $150,000 of LLR payments for licensing services, and $379,000 that we paid ISODEC proviso. There's 3 or 4 agencies, I guess, Mary, that go in on that program, and we're in the process of tracking that down and making sure, you know, that program's still operating, and really trying to understand what we're getting out of that, and I think it's tied into the continuum of care program through the Children's Advocacy Department. But anyways, we are following up on that. And then, of course, the genomic project for the Genetics Center, we've shelled out the full $2 million in cash on that because we already had it. We didn't want to delay paying that to them when the state's already given us their money. So, of course, that full amount is in there, but it's a one-time payment. So those are the items I wanted to highlight. We are beginning to watch our cash balances already. We are still waiting, and I emailed Jeff Saxon with Health and Human Services this morning. We are still waiting on approval for our day rate and our non-ICF residential programs. As far as this 2% raise in the direct care staff, we're basically getting funded the exact same amount that we've been funded last year, but we've already shelled out all the funds to the provider network. So we're upside down on that cash flow. So we're concerned that if that doesn't get addressed soon, we'll be having cash flows in February or March. So I've expressed that to HHS and hope that we get some type of traction there. The other risk we have is ensuring that it become retroactive. I was told when we met with them back in August that I had to give them everything by September, which I did. I met that deadline. And if we didn't hit the September, then it could not be retroactive. So I'm a little concerned now that we're in December, and that still hasn't been completed. So that's something we got to keep a really close eye on.
What about the case management money that we're supposed to be? Have they paid us yet for that? Are we still in arrears because they have a computer issue with our case management?
Oh, yes. Yeah, that issue. So when we went fee for service, there were some code changes, and there's an interfacing issue that we're having with HHS, and it's on their side, is what I'm being told, where we can't generate all of our claims for our case management at this time. We're up to over $7 million in unpaid claims at this point. And I got Pete Liggett involved in that. He had emailed Pat asking why we hadn't billed him for case management for the whole year, like we have. We're waiting on y'all to work with our IT
Getting
folks
rejected.
to get it corrected. So that's causing cash flow issues as well.
So
We've got-
it's not our providers that are.
No.
It's
It's us.
not coming into us. We're still sending money out from
Right.
somewhere.
Pay the providers, but
Okay, right, we're not getting reimbursed.
You're most welcome, Ralph. They tell us they're about 60% there to fixing the problem, but I did bring that up at our last meeting with Director Baker, that we still haven't gotten paid. And he goes, why, are you not billing us? I don't know why they think we're not billing. I said, no, we're just getting our claims rejected. So they're working on it.
it's another $1 million, $1.5 million every month that goes by, so it's squeezing us.
Can you elaborate on the line item for prevention program? What's included in that? Is that line item on the budget? So what covers the prevention program?
I'm trying to remember, I had to answer this question before.
I need to ask you this.
Probably need to bring that back to you
Okay.
so that I'm accurate,
Right, okay.
I guess.
No problem.
I think,
So it'd be anything we did for prevention would be in that line item. So it's probably more of a.
What?
yeah,
You know, any kind of educational items, any kind of training that we do, anything that would be in the category of trying to prevent. A lot of it's done with HASKI, I believe. You know, education to schools, education to folks about, you know, not texting and.
well, that's one, yeah, that's one of the enhancements I've asked, my budget department generates this. And I've asked Nancy and her staff to please define these line items and what goes into them so that we get something we can put in the commissioner packet that y'all will know what.
That way you can see how much is.
Because I don't even know what's in each area. It's based out of our general ledger, so. I'll have that answer for you at the January meeting or our committee meeting.
Finance, okay.
All right.
Grants?
Look, there's a lot of people. What are we hearing from the audience?
Yeah, it's our grant, it's anything, like I said, anything that has to do with prevention activities, so probably grants, or anything that we do under the HASKI department, which would make more sense because HASKI is, you know, that's the one you try to prevent that from happening in the first place. But we can get you a very line item detail as to where the money goes.
The thing is, there's a lot of money set aside in that line item, but very little's expended.
Yeah.
You know, so to clarify that is, you know, a good idea.
All right, any other questions? Let's move on to the capitated amendment for review.
Right. In accordance with commission policy, we are to bring any amendment in excess of $200,000 for review and approval. I know that when we did this in the last situation, we would need to ratify this, you know, at the January meeting possibly. But we do have Babcock Center, due to their sheer size and the number of folks they serve. When we true up the waiver population, I think we do it 3 or 4 times a year. Everything is retroactivated, so if we have to give them funding back to a certain date or take it from them back to a certain date. Even though we only do this 4 times a year, it is trued up for the actual underlying dates of service. We had 329 new Band Bs net, so that's the difference between the new folks and the folks falling off. And then a drop in 6 Band Is. And so that total for this fiscal year annualized or just for this year is 293,895, and annualized it's 315,556. That would be the impact of this had all these changes occurred on July 1st, as far as the underlying dates of service. So we're asking the commission to approve this amendment so that we can get this provider paid.
Who will take that up? in January where we can improve things. That just, I think we'll just, when it comes time to January, just let's go back and have all these ready to go on one presentation.
Yes, sir.
We're just gonna have to go through all of them and vote to approve or not at that point in time. But we still want people getting paid.
We'll have it queued up for you.
So do you appreciate getting paid?
Yes. Thank you for it.
Anything else?
Any other questions? Thank you, Chris. I think we'll take care of that. All right. State director report.
Okay. All right, and to add to Rob saying about the holiday fair, it's also there to help us with our last minute shopping when too busy to do it, so I appreciate that. I want to thank everyone who has traveled and brought their goods to our holiday market square. It's the first one ever, and I'm really impressed with the products that everybody's making. I'm impressed with their enthusiasm, that's for sure. That was really nice to see this morning. It was a great way to come into work. And I want to remind everybody that this is our first go around. We've had some criticism that we didn't do it high profile place. Well, this is our home. This is where we're having the party. And I think that we will sit down this summer after everybody gets a chance to recuperate, and we will see what we did okay and what we can do better. And let's see if we can engage even more people to start thinking in that entrepreneurial mindset so that we can even have more vendors. And I don't know if Rob hasn't noticed because he comes in upstairs in the back all the time, but we got a huge downstairs. We got a big old lobby. We'll just have to go out and rent some tables, I think, because we don't have a whole lot of tables. We've used pretty much all of those. But we will always make room for as many people as we can possibly put in here. And I think that is a wonderful way to remind us what our mission is. Yesterday's Senate Finance hearing was held, and we were second up at the plate, and it went well. Everybody listened very attentively. It's a very good committee, very committed to our mission. Senator Alexander always runs a very, very genial hearing. He's respectful to everybody, and I appreciate that. They asked a couple of follow-up questions. There was only one that I really couldn't answer, and it was about the ABA rate, so I kind of punted that on to Mr. Baker. And I told him, I sent him a text, warned him, but that he was going to have a question. We gave them a list of what we've done so far and what we, and reminded them that we've got a whole lot more to do. As you know, we keep finding a few little things, and we want to make sure that if we do find expenditures and we're not sure what what is our outcome from that? What is the deliverable on the part of the other person receiving the money? I think it's we are responsible as stewards of taxpayer dollars to be able to account for all that money. And we're still working on it because we're still finding stuff. And we also thanked and made a really significant effort to thank our collaborative partners in this. And we forged some really good collaborative initiatives over this past year with HHS, DMH, Department of Ed, DSS, and we still have more to do. But I know we're actually helping people when we actually place people out of a hospital emergency room and we can stabilize them. And I thank the General Assembly for their putting that triage dollars into our budget because we were able to actually stabilize 8 individuals, and we've got another one on the way. That included people in the community, so families who were having issues, DSS, as well as 3 providers who were having people that were having significant issues. I need to thank Jerry Bernard of Charles Lee and Michelle Schaefer of Max Abilities, Spartanburg and York School Districts, and the Department of Education. They're working on that DSP credential, and it's coming along quite nicely, and I think it's going to be rather impressive when it's done. And actually, it's trying to become a plug-and-play model so that we can kind of just sell it in a nice little box with a bow to school districts who are a little less likely to jump in and maybe not want to do that legwork that's been involved in all this development. And also, it's a heck of an orientation package. So if you're looking at the individuals that you're bringing into orientation, even if they're not going through the DSP credentialing, what is being built is really something that expands on our current orientation model. And we might even be looking at our directives and our regulations because it infuses videos, it infuses interactive training methodologies. It is really a tremendous piece of work that is going on. was extremely impressed. And I want to thank everybody for their hard work. If everyone recalls, last month I announced that Tana Vanderbilt will be retiring. And she's been helping us in our interviews. We've interviewed 7 attorneys for this position, and I think we're very close to making a decision and should have an announcement out by the beginning of next week, if they accept the position. We've had some good candidates. In addition, Chris Manos in procurement is also retiring at the end of December. And we already, we have an interim person for that position now, so we're not going to miss a beat there. The Mobility for All program, it's a pilot program in the upstate. It's a grant that focuses on improving coordination of human service and public transportation while enhancing non-emergency medical treatment. You know, we're all looking for that non-emergency transportation to keep people in jobs. They're going after a federal grant. Commissioner Blackwood brought this to our attention and asked if we could help with the group, and I kind of hooked him up with Mr. Clark there, and he has been an invaluable resource to them. And I think he's bringing some providers to the table at their next meeting also. Our work groups have been another important collaboration. We've not always agreed on everything, but we've discussed things in an open and honest method. And I am proud to say that DDSN has laid all the cards on the table, face up. We haven't kept anything hidden from anybody. And even though we do these meetings, I do want to say that we are canceling the quality management meeting for the 27th, because I have a funny feeling that no one's going to show up. But I will be in the office, so if someone wants to come in and talk quality management, I'm here, and I'll be more than happy to have that conversation, because I have a feeling I'll be a little lonely too. And we start orientation tomorrow with our new soon-to-be District 3 Commissioner. We're working on a brand new module training system that we are setting up to where they don't have to just listen to me talk to them, that we are going to introduce them to everybody on our team and everybody, and they'll get their materials as they're reviewing those materials. And the questions can be asked, and we're leaving plenty of sections in the back of the book that you can add answers to questions that are ancillary as you're going along your training. Because we know we're not going to cover everything for you, but as you have questions, you need to ask them, and we'll be more than happy to answer them. And after saying that, I want to thank Commissioners Lamel, Unum, and Blackwell for their commitment, their respect to this agency, the mission of this agency, as well as their respect for the process. And I know that's not been easy for you. I know it's not been easy for you. And you all know I can talk and I can go on, and that's never been a dispute. That's probably the one thing everybody in this room can agree on. Very people can talk. And we're going to have a lengthy meeting next month. So I'm going to say in closing, thank you for being here. I pray you all have a wonderful holiday season, a happy, healthy new year. Now I want you to get your cash, and I want you to go shop.
Just to remind us about the public hearing on January 3rd.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our next regular meeting is January 23rd. Now, before that, we are having some committee and public hearings in January. That'll all be sent out, and everyone will be apprised of that. So that next meeting on January 23rd, just to give everybody a heads up, there is a lot of backlog that we are going to have to be covering for that one. I expect that as short as this meeting has been, I expect that one to go long. I will do my best to push us through. What that means is we're not going to have a lot of fluff at that meeting, I hate to tell you. It's going to be one we're going to try to get to a lot of this outstanding business. But even as pushing as best we can, I want to make sure everything gets heard. But I'm letting everybody know right now, that's going to be a longer meeting. We're going to go as long as we need to go to get the work done that we need to get done. We haven't been able to do for the last several months. Okay. Anything else? All right. Okay. Then we will be adjourned. I thank everyone for being here. Do what Mary said, go send some money.